All right, we'll get started here. Thank you for everyone who is here joining us tonight for this Officiate Michigan Day presentation for basketball. It is entitled Crew Rotations, and it will be presented tonight by Dustin Crawford. Dustin, go ahead, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Like Brent said, getting the chance to talk to you a little bit about crew rotations. So I'll kind of pause after each slide. If you have questions, either you can throw them in the chat or just come off mute and let me know. Or if you want to save them till the end, it really doesn't matter to me. We'll talk a little bit about scenarios, whatnot, and we'll watch a few clips at the end and kind of talk about a few things. So hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Let's see. Maybe. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about three-person crew rotations. It comprises of a lead, center, and trail, and the lead and trail positions are going to find themselves on the ball side of the court, which we know as the strong side. Other side obviously being known as the weak side, and we'll talk more about these sides as we go. Basketball officiating, some of us, I'm sure many of us in the room here, officiate many different sports. Basketball is kind of unique where all three positions really require you to know a lot of different things at each time, different responsibilities, and countless times you're going to have plays that happen, back to back. And so we always have to be knowing what we're doing in each area. First and foremost, where most of everything starts before the game is our pregame. And this is huge to have the success of our game really just kind of start off flowing correctly. If you have, really kind of starts with your referee, but really want to work on a few things. So a couple things that crews that I'm on and crews that I work with that I like to bring up specifically kind of starts with one of the things that I really like to do is self-talk. And this is more so for myself, but as a crew, really knowing, sometimes your game gets boring, your eyes wander, and you want to always be kind of talking to yourself who I should be looking at, where, what areas I should be looking at, and kind of having an idea. One thing I like to really self-talk to myself too is always knowing, look for a competitive matchup, have an idea of where I'm looking, because things are going to catch you off guard. Communication is huge, just like it is in any other profession, but it's huge in ours, whether, we're communicating with our partners and knowing where they're at. And the communication could be verbal and nonverbal. So, we really have to kind of have open, in that pregame, really have an idea of where our partners are going to be, but that communication can happen on and off the court, knowing what's going on. Also saying, hey, if we have a timeout at the 1 minute mark into the game and we have something that's caught us off guard, let's communicate about it. The other thing we want to talk about is scenarios. Early in the year, there's not as many, especially if we haven't seen any, but it's good as the season goes on to remember plays, and you'll have scenarios where somebody else, you'll come to a point and say, hey, have you seen this or any goofy plays? And those are things you want to bring up here, because that's going to put you in a scenario to know, especially if you've had the teams that are coming out. Like if you've had team A, you might say, hey, team A has a post player number 50. He's super aggressive, always goes to the block. He's left-handed. Those are things that are going to help us in, knowing where we're going to be on the court. Positioning is extremely important to crew rotations. That really is the number one thing. We want to be in the right place, kind of at the right time, and looking at the right thing, because we don't, we want to be looking, in our area, in our primary coverage area, which kind of leads to the next, and you'll see this a lot. Your primary coverage area for your lead, trail, and center, you each have a third of the pie or a third of the court. So having to know where each of those coverage areas are, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And to start the game off, our most important thing, and right where we're going to get a baseline of success for the game, is our jump ball. So kind of moving into that right away, we want to know where we're supposed to be. U1 is table side at the 28-foot mark. U2 is opposite table side of the 28-foot mark, and our trail or referee is always going to be tossing the ball up. Now, big things that we want to think about here is we have to be ready if that ball is going to go left or go right. Teams like to get an advantage early, and we have to know where we're supposed to go. Because if we have a play go up, the ball goes left, and we go the wrong way, and we have a play at the basket and there's a foul, now we've had 5 seconds in the game and we've already got a bad taste in the mouth to both sides of the team. So we really have to set ourselves up for success. So if I'm at a U1 or U2, be in an athletic stance and get into our positions quickly. Some key items that we want to think about when we're rotating at all times: have your head on a swivel. And like, I'm not saying at all times you just want to kind of keep bouncing like this. It's just knowing what's around us at all times and kind of doing a scan of our primary. We have to show trust in our partners when we're rotating, knowing that if we're leaving an area to look at something new, they're going to be looking at what we left. Another thing is a rotation should only take place if all 3 officials are in the front court. Fast break is not a time that we should be rotating. When we're rotating, we can't guess. Guessing equals incorrect calls. And in trusting in your partners that if you can't see it, your partners can. Again, primary coverage area. You have to know your primary coverage area when you're leaving one and going into another, where you should be looking. At all times, especially rotating, hustle, move with the purpose, and every movement you have or every movement you do should improve your angle to get a better look at the play that's happening. So kind of a baseline of where we should be standing in a half court setting. Right here, we'll kind of see our trail, center, and lead, and each area that they're responsible for, and like as far as their coverage, is highlighted in a color closest to them. As a trail, like the starting position for me, you'll hear is the 28-foot line. I'm real big on, especially as the game progresses and we have less post play, of being closer to the play, because there's a lot more 3-point shots. Our guards are a lot faster, and there's a lot more perimeter play. So the baseline starting is the 28-foot line here, but we want to be almost a step below that, because we have to be in a good position to get down here. Sometimes you'll even hear crews say it's better to have 2 C's than 2 trails, because you're going to give yourself a better look at the play, of knowing what's going on. The half court position for the center is the free throw line, and that's getting your belly button or your zipper lined up with the free throw line. I'm a huge proponent, again, of here working lower. I usually have my outside foot, which in this case would be my right foot, on the free throw line looking down to help in, because you are responsible for half of this post play down here and getting a good angle. The lead is going to dictate all of our movement and has coverage area from half the post play out into the area towards the 3-point line. So at this time, does anybody have any questions as far as positioning or lining up in the half court setting, or maybe where we should be looking at? If not, I can move on.
Yeah, Dustin, a real quick question. Don Slater. Hey, is Brent Rice thought about moving that coverage for I'm looking down the corner where the trail forward covers the outside of the 3-point all the way down the baseline. We think about moving that so the league can take a free throw down like we do in the women's college, because you've always, in every game I've had in high school, the lead and trail are both looking down that corner. And even though we both know what's covered, it'd be easier, I think, for the lead, that way the trail can just let it go and look more inside.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, Don. And I that comes up a lot in pregame. And I think that's one of the things, like the communication is going to come up huge. Primarily, it's going to be, especially in high school, fast break is where your lead might assist with something like that. Now, if there's some plays and you're going to see people around, the trail, if you can see doesn't have a good look, maybe take a quick glance out there, because you want to have knowledge, especially if there's not much post play. Obviously, you're going to be closed down if there's post play, but you want to mirror the ball there and be out close and have some knowledge. If it comes to, hey, was that a 2 or a 3, you might have some knowledge. But I think at this time, I haven't heard anything of them moving that, but I can definitely see the benefits of that in that scenario. Any other questions, comments on this part? If not, I can move forward. Awesome. So a couple things, when to go. That's really the big thing of when we want to rotate. At this time, like, players in the ball are going to dictate our rotation. So what that kind of means with your post player is on the strong side block, and there's a cross screen to get him freed or her freed, we want to be able to make sure we're rotating over at that time, because that's going to become our strong side with the ball and the entry coming in. So really getting a feel for what the team and the offense is trying to do is going to help the decision-making process. And kind of, again, that comes back to, as the season gets progressing, if you have a team more than once, or if somebody's had them previously, knowing this stuff early gets us in a better position to help our entire crew. So making sure, we make good, decisive movements when we're rotating. Again, probably the big one it's going to force a rotation is if we have a team that's going to have, post play. And if they're getting them involved, we want to get over there immediately and referee what's going to be important and what's most important in our primary. Again, like we talked earlier, you're going to have a strong side and a weak side. I tell you, I know the C typically is obviously on the weak side, but you'll hear the old saying, your game only goes as well as, or how strong your C is. So a strong C at all times is extremely beneficial, being closed down and helping on plays that the trail and lead cannot see. The next kind of progression in this, and I apologize for the photo, it's a little grainy, but we get the gist of what we're kind of looking at here. Our trail, as we're running down the court in a fast break, we're looking at the trail's becoming the new lead. And with the trail in the center here, when we're running down the court, we kind of want to have almost like a peek over our shoulder. We know where we're going. We need to get to the baseline or the center at free throw line extended. We want to run with almost our head looking over our shoulder and being in an athletic stance. And so nothing catches us off guard as that ball might come down, a quick layup, and somebody gets fouled, we don't see it. So, or if the play happens to, around half court, a turnover happens and we're running down and then the lead stuck by himself officiating at the end. Lead, you're going to get down and moving at the pace of the ball. So what that kind of means is if it's a walk up, you're going to walk up. And if it's a dead sprint, you need to be moving just as fast as that ball is, but at about a step behind, moving just in case, there's a deflection in the back that we need to get to. So really being in an athletic stance, getting down the court and knowing where we need to go. So we know we're getting to the baseline, but we need to know if we're that lead, is that ball coming up the sideline? We want to mirror it and be out further outside the 3-point line, and just having an awareness of what's going on. And you'll know real quickly how quickly the teams are getting down the court and what we need to be looking for. Any questions as far as like fast break rotations or maybe what we should be looking at in these? Because I tell you here too, in fast break real quick before questions, fast break, or if we have a press in this scenario where we're getting into our positions like this, you need to discuss this and know what your coverage area is. So you might have a center calling a court or a foul or a violation potentially across the court 3/4 of the way because they have the best look at it in this scenario with no players in front of them. So we have to know what we're looking at all times when we move from one primary to another, like I said before, but it's really important during a fast break. So anybody questions as far as fast break?
I have a question, Dustin. Dave Volk.
Yep.
They taught me at camp, and this happens a lot. The kids are a lot faster than they were years ago. So instead of necessarily trying to get on the baseline to get the fast break for a foul, get the best angle that you possibly can if you know that you can't get to the baseline to call a foul with the fast break going. Just want to get your input on that.
No, and that's exactly right, Dave. And I think it's like they're hitting first. The most important thing is to officiate the play in the half court. And if we have a play like that we're getting beat in, there's kids that are just more athletic and faster, and it's becoming, like you said, it's becoming where it's we're not able to keep up, and that's fine. Get up, get a good angle, looking at we don't want to be looking through the backs of players. So make sure we're getting a good angle, and if you're working at the new trail or new lead, you just find yourself a good angle, and that's going to be it's hard because each scenario and that's different, but you never want to be looking through two players' backs because you're not going to be able to call a foul or what happens in those scenarios. So get a good angle. If you can get wide and see what happens at the basket, that's the best. But yeah, definitely if you have to also in that scenario, I like to pause and like almost come to a stop because when you're running, your eyes just bounce. And so your call percentages go down when your eyes bounce. You stop and get a look at the play, or get a better look and have an idea of what we see definitively. So yeah, you're on the right track there with that one, Dave. Any other fast break rotation questions? Okay, I'm gonna move on a little bit. Kind of the big here question is, when do we rotate? When do we not rotate? Because we always want to be in the right position. So early in the game, we'd be more advantageous for us to rotate more early in the game than not rotating enough, especially because what's happening early in the game. Teams are moving fast. They're trying to get a feel for the game, and we need to get a feel for them of what's going on and get a good angle. This slide's going to talk about times that we should not rotate, that shouldn't take place, or if in progress, that the lead should go back and return to their original position. So if we have an immediate shot, we want to go back. A drive to the basket, we never want to rotate into a drive at the basket, because what that does is now as we're moving across, that drive to the basket is just, it's already happened from the C. If you're rotating into it, stay away from that and go back. If we have a cross-court skip pass, you see that sometimes it's going to be a skip pass and a quick drive to the basket. So making sure you just get back into your prime or into your original starting position, and also a last second shot. As a crew, typically, if you know that, and this is something you'll pregame as well. Hey, we're not going to rotate under 10 seconds because, if we're moving, our call percentages are going down, like I said. So find with your crew a time that you are not going to rotate after, and be in those positions and looking where we should be looking. So, and again, if the lead rotates at any time during this, they're just going to put us in a bad position for the next play or the next rotation. So the lead has to really understand what they're doing in these scenarios. And it's not in this slide, but one thing I like to do, and I'll pregame this with the crew, is I like to do what I call it, like almost like pinching the paint. And I'll walk and I'll have almost both feet inside the paint. And if I don't think I'm going to go, I'll back right out. And it's not a full commitment. I'm just getting a better look. If not, I'm going to come back. But it's at that point, the C and the trail aren't rotating yet because I'm just pinching and getting a better look. And then I'll get back. So that's something you'll want to pregame with your crew, obviously. But these would be the scenarios where we would not want to rotate for the crew. We have a scenario where the C can facilitate a rotation and not initiate, but they can facilitate it because they're going to have the team just establishes front court possession on the center side. And I think we can all kind of envision that this is typically up towards half court in a little trap area where they're feeling pressured. The C at this time typically is going to go higher than the play. They need to get a good angle and see what's being trapped, if there's hands, jump ball, what's going on. So again, with court awareness and what's going on, the lead has to recognize what's going on, look away, because more times than not, the players are vacating their area. So we need to see rotate over. The trail has to also recognize and move up and help at the first move down to center. Because they get out of that trap, there's a pass over. We might have a drive at the basket and have to be in our position. So it's only going to happen at certain times, typically end of quarters, end of games, close scenarios, teams trying to hold the ball. But understanding that a C can facilitate the rotation. And again, a trail can facilitate a rotation as well, but only the lead can initiate the rotation. So the lead is really going to be the one that pushes that rotation through. So any questions as far as like a C facilitating a rotation, or maybe clarification if anybody has any?
Dustin, Gary mentions here in the chat that he often sees officials rotate and take their eyes off of the low post players when trying to get to the other side.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about a little bit on post play when rotating too, and we'll see some clips on that. So that's important. Like when I said a little bit earlier that it is important to know when you're leaving a primary and you're rotating into a new one, which players you should be looking at. So if you are that lead coming across to the other side, knowing, never taking your eyes off the play. You should be coming across the play with your shoulders parallel and looking, maintaining eye contact of which players you're picking up, because you're rotating because you saw a competitive matchup. That's probably 99% of the time why you rotated. There's a competitive matchup and you needed to see what was going on. So keeping your eyes on that competitive matchup as you're going to it, but also as you're going to a new one at the center, you're going to have, maybe guards or a pick and roll or a back screen, and a trail. You might have, a pass over top for a fast break and knowing where we should be. But yeah, definitely it's something that we also need to think about as self-talk. That's the big thing too. As you're going, knowing what I should be looking at, where I should be looking, who I should be looking at too. So those are, again, like I said earlier, self-talk and knowing, keywords you should remind yourself as you're going. So next, so this kind of just comes down to feel versus, rules of knowing when to rotate. There's not really a set of rules, but there's going to be a few situations that definitely need to trigger a rotation. Like I said here, a competitive matchup on the opposite low block with the ball settled on that side of the floor, just like we just talked about. You saw a competitive matchup between player A and player B. We got a post-up matchup. We need to get over there. I'm not a huge proponent of running over there. I want to move with a brisk pace. I'm not saying don't run. That I would never tell you not to run. That's just a personal belief. Or if I'm teaching anything or we're giving evaluations, I'm not huge on running. It looks like we're behind. It looks like we're rushed. But have a brisk walk and get over there and get in your place with move with a purpose is really the biggest thing you want to be doing. So, but I do not advocate for running for whatever wherever that might be. If we have a cross screen to free up a player at the opposite lane line, so it could be, again, like that post player, goes up, screens across for a post up matchup on the other side. Like we'll see some clips here soon, but getting across to see the competitive matchup, because 9 times out of 10 in high school, you have a couple players that set themselves apart, and those are going to be the kids that are doing the most scoring, and you'll see that right away. So again, something we want to pregame. The majority of the players in the ball on the centers, or the majority of the players in the ball on the center side of the court would be when we'd want to rotate as well. So again, the center has one person over there on the weak side. If there's 8 out of 10 players on that side, we have to get over there because they can physically only probably look at the competitive matchup in front of them. So understanding, again, what's on the court, where we're at, how many players are in my primary, do I need to go assist by rotating? Again, we also have the half court trap set on a center side, forcing that official to move toward the division line to referee the play. So it was like the C, similar to the C initiating that rotation. That's going to kind of be the scenario here. So does anybody else have anything like that they can think of like might trigger a rotation, or any questions as far as rotating? If you can't think of them right now, that's fine. I'll have some time for questions at the end. But these are going to be like probably our definitive times that we definitely need to go. But again, it's going to come down to feel and, comfortability with your crew and knowing, when we should go. How do we fix a rotation? It happens at least once in every game. You can watch Division I, NBA, all the way down to middle school. Rotation mishaps happen. It is. I mean, just like missed calls there. But the thing we need to do is find out ways to limit those and how to fix them coming out of them. So during, like I said, like it says here, during a front court team possession, communication, verbal, nonverbal cues. Don't be afraid if somebody's in the wrong position, turn and say to them, "Hey, Steve, center, you use that. We'd rather tell him or her in that scenario and get them in the right position, because if we got two people looking at the same area, there's a whole third of the court that doesn't have people looking. So we got to use, verbal or nonverbal. Eye contact with partners is huge, and whatever you feel comfortable with, but that's definitely a good nonverbal cue to kind of pick up. But if you have to speak up, definitely speak up. If we have a change of possession or a fast break, the easiest way to fix this is for the old lead that rotated back to their original position. So if we have a scenario where you were a late rotation on a 3-point shot or something, and that your center and new lead did not see that, you have to get back and rotate. Even if you're across court, run across the court and get back to your position as the new trail, because you were going to put everybody in the wrong position, and you were the only one that saw that rotation because it could have been late, but you have to get back and adapt to it. If we have the old trail recognizes the switch, but the new trail does not, again, the old lead has to tell the official to bump to new lead, like get them, get them down in the right position, use verbal cues at that point. Again, with this one as well, if the trail does not recognize the switch by the lead, verbally tell them to get to the center. And this is, this might be ending up with two leads, and that might be the worst scenario we could end up with. So telling them, hey, Brent, move up to your center, just kind of tell them real quick. And 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to notice, but they will notice if there's a drive to the basket and we don't have the center with a whistle because we were both under the backboard. So use verbal cues. We'd rather do that than, like I said, have something go wrong. Hardly anybody knows when we mess up except for ourselves, but these are ways to fix those and minimize our mistakes. Okay, a couple plays here. We'll just watch them, and then if you have comments after each play, we can do that and talk about them. So this one's going to be a half-court play with a rotation. So I don't know if there's. Okay, works earlier. I have them. I apologize. I'm going to exit out of this. I apologize, everyone. They worked earlier.
Self-talking, Dustin. I love it.
Say that again, Bruce.
You're self-talking. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it's very immensely important. I mean, get us in the right mindset. Too many times we wander with our minds, and I can't get this to go up. Dropbox. There we go. Brent, I know you put those in there, the videos. And I apologize because these.
All set.
All right. Again, I apologize for that. That was worked earlier. So we'll watch the play once through, and then we'll kind of talk about what we see. Okay, so right at this time, we kind of see that we're getting down the court. We came in, now we're in a half court position. We can notice right away where the lead has to get. He has to get to this side because there's 2 players on this side of half court. So we immediately have to get over, needs to get over he's going to see here quick. He's going to have a competitive matchup. And right away, he's communicating with the players. And you'll also see that the center or the trail right now is coming up, and he's going to get into position to help out right down below and get in a good position to pick up a competitive matchup in their area. Now he gets down, walks down a little bit, wasn't rushed. The trail, as we notice this right here, how this trail, here's the 28-foot line. But what do we have here? We have a competitive matchup with 24 here in the guard up top. If he's at the 20-foot line and above, he's what we like to call stacked, and you're not going to be able to see through this. So as we can see here, everyone's officiating their primary. We have 2 matchups here. This official's taking the post play, communicating with them. So he's completely occupied, knowing that this is his primary. This official, our C, coming to going to be the new trail, is staying put, and we have a competitive matchup here and being able to watch the other players out of his peripherals. So we'll watch it one more time real quick. The one thing I like about this official too that happened with this play here is this play could have turned really ugly really fast if they decided to sit over here on the I or the M of Timberwolves. This gets ugly. We have, a lot of contact, a little bumping and shoving. This happens. He runs over. Now we have a foul. He doesn't know what happened. He gets over here. Boom. We initiate it. They have play, and it moves on from there. So any questions with this play specifically, or maybe something I would have said about this play? If not, I got a couple more we can watch that might trigger a response. Can everyone see this play?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. I'll back it up just a little bit. We'll watch it one more time. We can notice here that the trail, new C, sees his partner's going. Boom. Oh, I'm going to try to apologize. Okay, at this point, we see the trail. At this position, it looks to be that they're below the free throw line because of this competitive matchup. If you're on that free throw line, you're going to be looking through a back, not going to be able to see contact. Right away, we notice we have a competitive matchup with our post. Our lead rotates across, sees that right away, has good vision, briskly walks over, gets a view of this. Our trail becomes new C, and you'll notice a brisk. I mean, if he has to get there, they need to get there quickly, but he takes a nice brisk jog, gets there, sees what's going on in their position, and is able to evaluate all of their area at this time. And it looks seamless. That's a beautiful rotation, very seamless. Everyone's in the right position after each pass. So a couple more. Let's see here. This is the same game. So we notice here, this is just the tail end of that play we had. We notice we have a foul. Okay. This referee you can see his eyes. He's looking right here the whole way as he's rotating. This is nice because this is kind of how the game looks today. If they have a post player, it looks very similar to this. Spread out. Eyes are on the competitive matchup. As he rotates, he's seeing, now he's looking through the players. He's not stacked, looking at the players for a competitive matchup, gets over there, and we have a foul call with illegal contact. Boom, stand here. Puts yourself in a good position, looking at the right thing at the right time to make the right call. That's not the right one. Let's see. I believe we got one more. This might be it. Pause. Okay. Remember earlier I talked a little bit about pinching the paint? I like to be, this is a little deep for me as the lead. I'm going to be probably right on the S, about right where they're at. This is called pinching, but I'm going to be up a little bit closer. I want to, you're almost too far here out of the play, but we can see here the one thing that I don't like about this play is, what do we not see here? Anybody?
Trail.
Trail. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, obviously this looks like, at any position, it's important, but this looks like a, pretty packed game, probably a rivalry game. You know, we at all times, it's early in the half for first quarter, probably 8-minute quarters. It's early. That's at this point, that's kind of unacceptable for a crew rotation, not even in the picture. I sure hope this is a 3-person crew, because I would hate that I said that. And if it's not, but I'm pretty sure this is a 3-person clip. But nonetheless, a trail at this position needs to be in the court here. And this is a 2-person. So I feel like an idiot for saying that, but nonetheless, that's something we should see in that scenario. So 2-person rotations are a completely different animal. So last clip here, and then we'll open it up for questions. Pause. This point, this is a quick entry pass. So we see, come back. What do we have here? Cross screen. You know, whatever we think about the screen right here is what it is. We have a scenario where we know that looks like that possession is going to happen quick. So we can see we have a post up now. Boom. We're moving. Now if we were to run here, we're going to look like we're out of position. Where do we have the C going, or the trail? New C. They're already looking through, helping out. There might be some contact in here. We need to rotate, and we all move together. Boom, move. Perfect. Now, this center and trail are extremely important. If I'm the lead right here, rotating over, and this is a game where we have a play at the rim, or a dunk, or a layup above the rim, this person right here, this lead, if they rotate over and they're here, they can't see a play up here. We have to have help from getting the trail, the trail in the center into position to help with plays above the rim and knowing where to look when plays like that happen. Seamless, everyone moves together. Post play, engaged, moving, boom, we know where we should be. So, few plays, there's a lot of things we can do wrong, and we want to, obviously think about how to fix those. But it is important to, as a recap, kind of have communication is huge. I can't stress enough how much communication is important to the success of our game. So let's see if are we seeing the PowerPoint now? Is that what everybody sees?
Yes.
Okay. The last thing I would say is this, like any other thing, it's going to take practice. Rotations is all, it's practicing. You're going to see different plays over and over every game, but you have to learn to hone the way you feel and develop that instinctual feel for when to rotate, when it's time on the court. The more games that you work, the better you're going to become. Just like, any skill you do, the more you do it, the better you're going to become. But do it well. You don't want to just go out there and work games and not work. The one thing I like to do every game, and you'll hear this as a practice as it comes down. Pick what you're going to work on. One thing you're going to work on every game. Every game. It could be you're going to work on how you move as the lead, how you move as the trail, the center, staying disciplined, making sure I'm self-talking. Think about it. I challenge every one of you to maybe write a list of each game and then what you worked on, and then evaluate yourself. Did you get better at that? That might not right now pertain to crew rotations, but that's immensely important to like your success individually, because this is what it is. As much as we work with crews, the better our crews become, because individually we become better at this skill and know what we should be doing. So challenge yourself to work on a skill every single game, even if you work a double header. You want to save your legs a little bit. So whatever JV game you're going to work on, I don't know, watching hand check, whatever it could be, second game, 3-person crew, you want to watch, making sure how you work as a lead. Something to think about, but that's something I challenge you all to take away from this. And continue to get better at this, because the better you get, the better our games flow and the better product we can put out there on the court for the players and the teams that work hard. So I appreciate everybody's time. And if you have questions, I will open it up to that.
Don Slater again. I got a quick question. That last video, it was good rotation by the lead. Had I been the lead, I'd probably seen that screen coming, I probably would have flowed with that, seeing that there's already 4 or 5 players on the other side, knowing that that pass was probably coming to low post.
Absolutely. No, and that's a great point. And that's one of those things, Don, I'm guessing that you've been doing this for quite a while, and that's something that you've picked up the feel of the game there, and that's going to put you in a good position. So those are things that, as you do that, and you never know too, the one thing that as you move, or if somebody's watching you, if there's new people officiating, they're going to watch how you move, especially if you're moving with confidence and conviction. If you do that and have that good feel and it looked effortlessly, absolutely, that's something you should definitely be able to have that feel. So that's a good point, Don.
I got one more also. Going back to that rotation that you get missed, lead rotates, and it could have been a shot or whatever, and both players, somebody doesn't see it. The best thing I suggest for my crew is if you do the rotations lead and one person doesn't pick up on it, run down the middle, go to their strong side. You want 2 officials on their strong side at all times.
Absolutely.
And they'll fix it from there.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And that's something too you can bring up too if someone and again, the only people that are going to know what happened, the 3 officials that are on the court. So make sure that's addressed and just say, hey, making sure we're all on the same page and knowing, when that was missed, what happened. So, yeah. Anybody else?
If I move states, do I need to re-register in that state?
Yes. Yes. Yep. You will need to re-register with the state of Michigan right away. So, and I would encourage you, I believe,
Michigan to Illinois or something, then I would register in Illinois.
Yeah, you'll need to register in Michigan for sure. Yes. And you can go, the best way to do it is going to be to go to that website right there.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And if you have questions, I'll also put my email. If you have, you can also reach out to me as well. So I'll just put my email in here as well.
Tom had a question here. It was in regards to the last video, and I'm trying to think about, and maybe you might have seen it, but it was in regards to whether or not the trail bailed out too soon on that play.
The trail bailing out too soon on, was it?
Get hung over, partying. Isn't that what we're?
Say that again.
I don't know what that was.
I don't quite remember the play, the trail bailing out too fast. But if they did, that's important. I mean, like we said earlier, the most important play is the half court play that we're looking at currently. If we have a play in half outside of, in a fast break, that's going to be something as a crew that's going to have a play that's going to happen in front of God and everybody, and it's going to be quite noticeable. So referee the players that are in front of us at the time and take care of that stuff at when it's in front of everybody else. So I hope that kind of answered that. So I know there's probably a lot of different philosophies that people have. My presentation is not necessarily the right way, the wrong way. This is ways that I've been taught and am working at wanting to try to pass down, because I feel like that they are beneficial to the crew and have had success. So if you take one thing away, great. If you didn't take anything away, then so be it. But if you, like I said, take one thing away from it and become a better official from, you spent time here, at least take one thing away from it. And I know Brent said he's recording it, but if you want any follow up with this or didn't have a question or don't want to speak up, feel free to email me. We can network, and I love talking hoops. So any other questions?
Well, thank you, Dustin. Thank you for those of you who are on the call as well. And I appreciate that. As he mentioned, and I said earlier, this is being recorded. We will release it along with the rest of our Officiate Michigan Day videos on July 31st. It does look like we will even have a couple that will be coming in after that date. We'll just post them to the same folder as well. I will be sending out information on those videos and how you can retrieve them and the links to get to them. So that will go out to all officials that we have. You will need to be registered in order to get the access to those, or at least get an invitation to those. So please keep that in mind, and we can always send them out after you get registered if it's later on. He mentioned registration. Registration, the late date has been extended to August 15th. That will be the regular late date now, moving forward, at least for the fall season. So any questions that you have, as he's mentioned, he's given you his email address. You can reach out to him. If you reach out to me, I may pass that along to him as well. So Dustin, thank you very much for taking on this presentation. I appreciate the work and effort that you put into it.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.